being healthy actually keeps you looking good and young. Now, I did mention earlier about exercise and the benefit it has to the brains by saying that it generates brain cells immediately. Now, to give you some facts about the teenage brain. So, as you can see over here in the slide, the teenage brain is still hyper excitable as it has childlike qualities. It has vast potentials to learn and absorb a great amount of detail. Because of this quality, it brings vulnerability to injuries from a number of different things, and one of them is substance abuse and addiction. So unfortunately, addiction is also a form of learning, and it does use some of the same molecular biology and physiology of learning. There are studies that show that teenage brain can get addicted faster and stronger than the adult brain. It can be curbed right now if you make a change and seek help before it's too late. Reach out to a professional who will help you break the habit, and you can get on by being the best version of yourself. The types of addictions that we currently face are smoking, alcohol, substance, foods like sugar, and the internet. Addictions such as alcohol, cigarettes, and other substance toxicity can cause more brain damage in the teenage brain than the adult brain. It can have harmful effects in the memory up to a week in teenage brains by just one single use. There have been studies conducted on animals, rats to be precise, on nicotine usage. The adult brain did activate on the usage of nicotine, but the teenage brain lit up 10 times more. There's a possible explanation that since addiction is similar to learning and the teenage brain can do so much more better than the adult brain in it, it has greater chances to do more brain damage to the teens than for the adults. To make the teens aware is our duty in order for them to make the right judgment, in order to stay away from them. However, it is very difficult for the teenage brain to make that judgment in a concrete way, as the brain has not developed entirely for them and does struggle with logical decisions. So the human brain is fully formed at the age of 25. So if you hear some people say, I don't know what's going to happen with the current generation, that's because you're unaware that the teenage brain is making decisions based on only emotions and very little to absolute no logic at times. And this happened to me in our generation as well, because every time our elders used to say, I don't know what's going to happen to this generation. But that's because the brain forms only after the age of 25 in the way of logical thinking. Hence, it is best to ask for help from professionals in order to break that habit right now before it's too late. When it comes to acknowledging whether we are on the right path or not, or whether it comes to acknowledging that we have an addiction to certain things or not, some of us may not want to accept it and deal with it in different ways. So how do people deal with it? One of it is cognitive bias. Cognition means thoughts and pieces of knowledge, and bias is preference. So there are a few kind of cognitive bias, and one is illusion of control. The tendency for one to believe that they can control the outcomes that they clearly can't. So one example is, I can control my habits. It's not an addiction and I can stop it anytime I want. So that is the illusion of control. The second one is overconfidence. I can continue with this habit and still be able to perform better than the rest because I am that good. The third one is primacy effect. To add on to the subsequent events, to the initial events, to strengthen the logic. In the past, many people have done it. So I can do it also. I know of people who do this and still do well. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for me. And one of the worst ones is the confirmation bias. To search for information that promotes or validates one's preconception, which leads to a herd mentality or a mob mentality. And one of my favorite ones is alcohol has health benefits. So, but most of them, they do not know that these studies where they say alcohol has health benefits are funded by the people who own companies of alcohol. So I don't think that one really counts. The other thing, how people deal with all their problems and whether they are going to accept whether they are in the right path or not is cognitive dissonance. So again, cognition is thoughts or pieces of knowledge, and dissonance means inconsistency. So if a person is saying, I drink and I smoke, and that same person says, I know drinking and smoking is not good for my health, that is inconsistency there in two different terms. So in order to work this out, one must work on the inconsistency or in the dissonance, and this is also done by three methods. One is by changing the thought. So the person may alter the thought by saying, I throw major tantrums, and I don't think throwing tantrums is bad. So if I say that this is in addiction, the person would say, I know I drink and smoke, but I don't think it's that bad. So in that way, that person is actually changing the thought completely from what it used to be. Then there's the other one where they change the behavior. So in this way, the person, if I'm going to stick on to the addiction bit of it, the person who's drinking and smoking would say, okay, drinking and smoking is bad, I'm drinking and smoking, so let me change the behavior because I know it's bad for me. So that's where they change the behavior. And the third one is adding a thought. So if they say, again, let me stick on to addiction, I am drinking and smoking, but I'm not a bad person. So that is another thought which could help them, or they self treat themselves by all these things, which is working towards their inconsistency. So there's a physical discomfort when a person is in dissonance, when there's an inconsistency in them, because they are mindful of it and they know that there's something wrong with both the statements that they're making. Hence, these three methods are used to make them feel better about themselves. Be mindful, they can be resolved in many ways, some for the better and some for the worse. It is, of course, in the hands of the individual making that decision. The question I ask you, friends, do you want to compete with an advantage or a disadvantage in a game called life? Because it is your life, it is how you're growing, it is how you treat your body, and the brain is a part of it, so you need to respect it. Now, what are the benefits of being a teenager? There are a lot of benefits. So transformation is possible for young adults from the ages of 15 to 25 at a super fast rate, where their body does a lot of change, and like development of their brains, they have the capacity to absorb knowledge and data. So is the body's adaptability in building muscles and bone density, which is very essential for the long run in terms of health and survival. It does not mean that after the age of 25 we stop. No, actually you need to constantly work on your growing muscles, and after a certain age, especially when you come to 30 and above, you need to work out more, because from the ages of 30 to 35, I would say, your muscle is at a plateau. And from 35 it takes a dip for some you can go up to 40, but then you start losing your muscles. So like the saying goes, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.